Nemo was dead the whole time? What Finding Nemo was really about. If you've seen Pixar's Finding Nemo, then you probably know it as a deep and enlightening tale of an overprotective father who will stop at nothing to keep his son safe, even if that means being stern with him, or worse, searching the depths of the ocean for him after he is taken away by a scuba diver. We watch with a sense of amazement, coupled with a small sense of sorrow, as Marlin and his newly acquired companion Dory search far and wide for any clues as to how to get Nemo back. This sense of urgency to protect one's child comes instinctually for any parent, but Marlin seems to go above and beyond in this case. Absolutely nothing stops him from getting his son back. This probably has to do with the fact that he lost the rest of his family after that dreadful barracuda attack at the beginning of the film, and it makes sense with why he wants to keep Nemo so close. But what if I told you that the movie actually gets a bit deeper than you expect, and that Marlin wasn't actually looking for Nemo, but instead going through the stages of grief after losing his entire family, including Nemo, in that barracuda attack? Now, before we explain further, if you are a fan of all things Disney and Pixar, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any of our magical uploads. Alright, so when we take a look at the name of the film, Finding Nemo, it seems pretty straightforward. Nemo is the name of the lost child that his father's trying to find. But when you look at the Latin translation for Nemo, it turns out that the word Nemo translates to no one, which would make the title of the movie really mean Finding No One rather than Finding Nemo. Fans believe that this is Pixar's way of telling us that Nemo never existed in the first place, and Marlin is actually on a mission to find no one. But what does that mean? I mean, clearly we saw his son at the beginning of the movie, and we even saw what happened to him to make him disappear. So why would Marlin be searching for no one? Here's where it gets interesting. Fans believe that Dory and Marlin may have more in common than we originally thought, meaning that much like Dory, Marlin might have also been suffering from a mental illness of some sort. Only, while Dory is suffering from acute short-term memory loss, a hereditary trait, Marlin is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, coupled with grief after a barracuda killed his entire family. The theory goes that Marlin noticed the barracuda and warned his wife, Coral, to get back inside, and then immediately retreated himself. After getting into safety, Marlin waited for his wife, but she ended up not coming back into the anemone, and it is there where he bravely goes out to rescue her and gets knocked out by the barracuda in the process. He wakes up alone in the anemone, and overloaded with emotion, he begins to frantically look around for any signs of life, and any chance that his wife and his future children were alive. But with no luck, his brain immediately began to protect itself. It is here that Marlin's subconscious mind understands what really happened, and his conscious mind blocks out all possibility that he's lost everything. He imagines that he did have something left, a slightly damaged egg, an egg that he would call Nemo and promise to protect at all costs. As Nemo grew in Marlin's mind, his subconscious knew that something wasn't right. Perhaps that is why Nemo grew up with a deformed fin. Meanwhile, Marlin just told himself it was from the barracuda attack, and all was well. What's interesting about this theory is that Dory wouldn't even be able to tell Marlin that Nemo wasn't real for two reasons. One, she hadn't met Nemo yet, and for all she knew, Marlin was looking for his son. And the other more obvious reason is the fact that she wouldn't be able to remember whether Nemo was real or not due to her own memory loss. She would just have to believe the stories that Marlin told her. With the idea that Marlin's brain created Nemo as a sort of coping mechanism for him, the stages of grief that we see Marlin going through in the film become strikingly apparent. It immediately starts on the day that Nemo was set to go out into the world with the rest of the kids. His first day at school. Marlin was panicking the whole morning, trying to come up with reasons why Nemo didn't need to go that day, which many believe to be separation anxiety, but some think that it was his brain trying to keep him from learning that Nemo wasn't real. Either way, Marlin ended up getting Nemo ready for school and brought him to meet his new teacher, Mr. Ray. This is when things turn a bit sour when Mr. Ray doesn't see a child. Confused, he tries to let Marlin know that there's no one with him, explaining that Nemo doesn't exist. This is when Marlin, in denial, follows Mr. Ray and the class to the edge of the reef, and eventually out to the open water to begin his adventure through the depths of the ocean to find his supposedly lost boy. Along the way, Marlin meets several friends, each as quirky as the next, and all with a plethora of knowledge for Marlin. Remember when he and Dory meet Bruce the shark and his buddies? And the famous fish are friends, not food scene? A pretty hilarious scene that turns out it may have been more inspirational than you think. We see the sharks teach Marlin a very valuable lesson. They teach him not to worry so much. Anything can seem threatening at first glance, but you never really know. Worrying is pointless, and things are just going to happen the way that they happen. Crush the turtle also teaches him a lesson. Crush was one of the most laid-back characters in the film and taught him that no matter how hard you try, you can't control everything in your life. Sometimes you're just going to have to lay back and go with the flow. Even Dory teaches him the importance of letting go and to just keep swimming. Now that Marlin has learned to overcome his grief with the help of his friends, he finally lets Nemo go, represented by the scene at the very end where he lets Nemo go off to school. The way that Finding Nemo represents mental health and accepting help from your friends is truly inspirational. In fact, Finding Nemo actually represents a whole plethora of mental illnesses amongst its characters. Throughout the movie, we meet characters like Jacques and Gurgle, who seem to have some form of OCD through their compulsive need to have a clean living area and a lust for control. Or even Deb, who may be suffering from an illness known as dissociative identity disorder, which is why she thinks her reflection is her sister, who always seems to agree with her. Even the sharks, Bruce, Anchor, and Chum, are theorized to be suffering from addiction. When we first meet them, they seem to be in some sort of AA meeting, only their addiction was eating fish rather than consuming alcohol. This is why they must memorize their famous slogan, "Fish are friends, not food." You can see mental illnesses depicted in all shapes and sizes, and that's a wonderful thing. It should be more normalized. Disney and Pixar have always been known for making films that tackle issues that children may eventually deal with in life and healthy ways to work through those problems. And the idea that Finding Nemo is actually a story about a father grieving over the loss of his family fits right in with the other meaningful tales that they have come up with in the past. So what do you think? Does the story of Finding Nemo go deeper than what they show on the surface? Be sure to let us know. That's all, Disney fans. Let us know what you thought of this video in the comments, and like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.